That summer, forever etched in my memory, was when everything took an unexpected turn. It was meant to be a straightforward escape, an opportunity to breathe in the fresh, crisp country air at my grandparents' farm, where the sky stretched endlessly above us. My friends and I meticulously planned this trip as a much-needed respite from the relentless pace of city life, an opportunity to unplug and immerse ourselves in the simplicity and calm of rural surroundings. We envisioned days filled with laughter and relaxation, completely unaware that the farm was a keeper of secrets, dark, unsettling secrets that would continue to haunt us long after we departed. The initial days unfolded like a dream, a serene and picturesque escape from reality. We roamed the expansive fields, swam in the refreshing river, and savored the sumptuous meals my grandmother lovingly prepared, each dish a testament to her culinary skills. The farm was the epitome of tranquility, its vast stretches of wheat swaying gently in the breeze, accompanied by the distant lowing of cows in the fields. Yet, as the sun descended below the horizon, casting elongated shadows over the landscape, an inexplicable sense of unease began to creep into our consciousness, a feeling we couldn't quite shake off. It all began with the sounds, subtle at first. Initially, we dismissed them as the natural creaks and groans of an old farmhouse settling into the night, mere background noise to our idyllic retreat. However, the noises soon took on a more distinct character, whispers that seemed to float through the very walls, soft footsteps echoing in the corridors, and the distant cry of something that wasn't quite animal. Jake, my friend with an insatiable curiosity, was the first to bring it up, his voice tinged with both intrigue and unease. "Do you guys hear that at night?" he inquired, his eyes scanning our faces in search of reassurance, hoping he wasn't the only one experiencing this eerie phenomenon. We laughed it off, attributing it to the whims of the wind or the playful imaginations of city kids unaccustomed to the sounds of the countryside. Yet, as the nights dragged on, the whispers grew louder, more insistent, as if they were desperately trying to convey a message that eluded our comprehension, a message hidden within the very fabric of the farm itself. One evening, as the sun set in a breathtaking blaze of orange and pink, painting the sky with vibrant hues, we made the decision to explore the old barn situated at the edge of the property. It had stood abandoned for years, its wooden beams weathered and sagging under the relentless weight of time, a monument to a bygone era. Armed with flashlights and a sense of adventure, we ventured inside, our footsteps reverberating in the cavernous space, each step echoing through the silence. The air was thick with dust, swirling in the beams of our flashlights as they danced across the walls, revealing faded photographs and rusted tools, remnants of a past life. It was then that we saw it, a shadow flitting across the far wall, too quick and too deliberate to be dismissed as a mere trick of the light. We froze, our hearts pounding in unison, a shared moment of fear and awe. "Did you see that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible, a tremor betraying her calm exterior. We nodded, our earlier bravado replaced by a growing sense of dread, an acknowledgement of the unknown. As we turned to leave, a chill swept through the barn, and the whispers returned, louder and more urgent, as if the very walls were speaking to us, urging us to uncover the truth hidden within their depths, a truth that demanded to be heard. That night, sleep eluded us. We huddled together in the living room, the flickering light of the fireplace casting eerie shadows on the walls, shadows that seemed to dance to the rhythm of our unease. My grandfather, sensing our disquiet, shared stories of the farm's history, tales of settlers and hardships, of lives lost and dreams shattered, stories that painted a picture of resilience and tragedy. But there was one story he hesitated to tell, his eyes clouded with memories too painful to revisit, a story that lingered on the tip of his tongue. As the days passed, the occurrences became more frequent, more pronounced. Objects would move on their own, disappearing and reappearing in the most unexpected places, as if guided by unseen hands. The whispers grew louder, forming words that were almost intelligible, words that seemed to hover just out of reach. And then there were the sightings, glimpses of figures in the fields, watching us with eyes that seemed to pierce through the darkness, eyes that held untold stories. Sarah was the first to suggest that the farm might be haunted, her voice a mixture of skepticism and belief. We laughed at the notion, but deep down, we all felt it, the presence of something beyond our understanding, something that defied logic and reason, something that demanded answers. Desperate for answers, we decided to investigate further, delving into the farm's past and the lives of those who had called it home, determined to uncover the truth. Our search led us to the local library, where we pored over old newspapers and records, piecing together a history that was both fascinating and terrifying, a history that spoke of love and loss, of joy and sorrow. The farm, it seemed, had been the site of a series of tragic events, a fire that had claimed the lives of an entire family, mysterious disappearances, and tales of a curse that had plagued the land for generations, a curse that still lingered in the whispers of the fields. Armed with this knowledge, we returned to the farm, determined to confront whatever force was at play, determined to bring peace to the restless spirits. That night, as the wind howled outside and the whispers reached a fever pitch, we gathered in the barn once more, our hearts united in purpose. We lit candles and formed a circle, our hands clasped tightly as we called out to the spirits that lingered in the shadows, spirits that had become a part of our lives. The temperature dropped suddenly, our breath visible in the frigid air, a testament to the presence of the supernatural. And then, we saw them, figures emerging from the darkness, their faces etched with sorrow and longing, faces that spoke of a past filled with heartache. They moved towards us, their whispers forming a chorus of voices that filled the barn with a haunting melody, a melody that resonated with the pain of the past. In that moment, I understood. They were not here to harm us, but to seek our help, to find closure for the tragedies that had bound them to this place, their souls trapped in a cycle of grief and despair. We listened as they shared their stories, their pain and suffering laid bare before us, stories that demanded to be heard and remembered. With each word, the weight on my chest lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose, a purpose that transcended the boundaries of life and death. We vowed to honor their memory, to share their stories and ensure that they would not be forgotten, to give them the peace they so desperately sought. As the first light of dawn broke through the barn's windows, the figures began to fade, their whispers growing softer until they were no more, their presence a gentle reminder of the past. The farm, once shrouded in mystery and fear, was now a place of peace and healing, a testament to the power of understanding and compassion. The whispers had ceased, and the shadows that had haunted us were gone, leaving behind a sense of tranquility. We left that summer with a newfound respect for the past and the understanding that some stories are meant to be told, no matter how haunting they may be, stories that bridge the gap between the living and the dead. To this day, I carry the memories of that summer with me, a reminder that the line between the living and the dead is thinner than we might think, and that the past is never truly gone. It lingers in the whispers of the fields, waiting for someone to listen, waiting for someone to understand. And as I reflect on those days, I realize that the past is not just a memory, but a part of us, a part of the present that shapes our future, a legacy that we must honor and cherish. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I remember vividly the creaking floors and the ever-present scent of lavender that seemed to linger perpetually in my grandmother's house. Each step on those floors was like a gentle reminder of the years that had passed, the stories that had unfolded within those walls. It was a quaint little cottage, nestled comfortably in a sleepy town that seemed to have forgotten the rest of the world existed. The town itself was a relic of the past, with cobblestone streets and old brick buildings that whispered tales of bygone eras. The house was a place of comfort and warmth, a sanctuary where time seemed to stand still and worries melted away like snowflakes on a warm window pane. My grandmother, a sprightly woman with a thick Irish accent that sang like a melody, was the heart and soul of that home. Her laughter was infectious, her stories captivating, and her presence a balm to the soul. She had immigrated from Ireland many years ago, bringing with her the warmth and rich traditions of her homeland, which she cherished deeply. Her tales of the rolling green hills and misty mornings of Ireland painted vivid pictures in my mind, filling me with a longing for a place I had never seen. Unbeknownst to me at the time, she also carried with her a dark secret, one that would eventually reveal itself in the most unsettling of ways, casting a long shadow over our peaceful lives. Life with her was a series of comforting routines: morning tea with biscuits, afternoon walks through the lush garden, and evenings spent by the crackling fire, sharing stories and laughter that echoed through the cozy rooms. Each day was a tapestry woven with love and tradition, a rhythm that brought comfort and joy. The garden was her pride and joy, a riot of colors and scents that seemed to bloom eternally. The rhythm of our days was soothing, a gentle cadence that lulled me into a sense of security and belonging, a feeling as comforting as a soft, warm blanket. Yet, there was one ritual that always stood out, one that I couldn't quite understand, no matter how hard I tried to decipher its meaning. Every night, as the clock struck midnight, she would light a single candle and murmur words in Irish, her voice a soft chant that echoed through the walls, filling the house with an air of mystery and intrigue. The candlelight flickered like a living entity, casting shadows that danced across the walls, adding to the enigma of the moment. It was a ritual that seemed both ancient and mysterious, and I was never allowed to watch. Curiosity often got the better of me, and I'd find myself peeking through the keyhole, trying to decipher the mystery of her midnight vigil, wondering what secrets lay hidden behind those closed doors, what ancient truths were being whispered into the night. It was during one of those clandestine observations that I first noticed something was amiss. Her shadow, cast by the flickering candlelight, seemed to move independently, stretching and contorting in ways that defied logic and reason, as if it had a life of its own. It was as if another presence lurked within her shadow, something that was not quite human, something otherworldly and unsettling. The sight sent a chill down my spine, and I pulled away from the keyhole, my heart racing with fear and confusion, my mind struggling to comprehend what I had just witnessed. The room seemed to close in on me, the air thick with an unspoken tension that pressed down like a weight. I wanted to ask her about it, to understand what I had seen, but something held me back. Perhaps it was the fear of disrupting the fragile balance of our lives, or maybe it was the unspoken understanding that some things were better left unexplored, hidden in the shadows where they belonged, undisturbed by the light of day. "Not," she would whisper, her voice tinged with fear and urgency, her eyes wide with a knowing that I could not fathom. "Not today." The word seemed to hold a power, a warning of something lurking just beyond the veil of reality, waiting to pounce and shatter our world. It was as if the word itself was a talisman, a protective charm against the unknown. I didn't understand what "not" meant, but the word haunted me. It lingered in my mind, a shadowy presence that refused to be ignored, gnawing at the edges of my consciousness, demanding attention and understanding. I found myself repeating it under my breath, as if trying to unlock its secrets, to understand the depth of its meaning and the weight it carried, hoping that somehow the repetition would reveal its mysteries to me. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, I found myself alone in the house. My grandmother had gone to town, leaving me with strict instructions to stay indoors and keep the doors locked, an unusual request that filled me with unease. The house, usually filled with warmth and laughter, felt different in her absence, the silence stretching like a living thing. The wind howled outside, rattling the windows, and I could feel the chill of unease settling in my bones, a coldness that seemed to seep into my very soul. The house seemed different without her presence, the familiar rooms suddenly foreign and filled with shadows that seemed to move and whisper secrets I couldn't comprehend, secrets that danced just out of reach. That's when I saw it. A figure standing at the end of the hallway, shrouded in darkness. It looked like my grandmother, but there was something off. Her eyes were vacant, her smile too wide, too forced, as if someone had taken her likeness and twisted it into something grotesque and unnatural. The sight was both familiar and alien, a distortion of the woman I loved. I blinked, and she was gone, leaving only the echo of her presence in the empty hall, a haunting reminder of the encounter that left me shaken, my mind racing with questions and fears, my heart pounding in my chest like a drum. Panic surged through me, and I rushed to the living room, hoping to find solace in the familiar surroundings, in the warmth of the fire and the comforting embrace of the old armchair. But the shadows seemed to close in, whispering secrets I couldn't comprehend, filling the room with an oppressive sense of dread that pressed down on me like a weight. I felt a presence, an entity that was both there and not there, watching me with unseen eyes, waiting for the right moment to strike, to reveal itself and its intentions. It was as if the house itself had come alive, the walls closing in around me, suffocating me with their silent whispers, their unspoken truths. When my grandmother returned, I hesitated to tell her what I had seen. But she seemed to know, her eyes scanning the room with a wariness that spoke of years of vigilance and experience, of battles fought in the shadows. Her gaze was sharp, penetrating, as if she could see the very essence of the room. She hugged me tightly, whispering words of comfort, yet I could sense the underlying tension in her voice, the fear that lurked beneath her calm exterior. It was as if she was battling an unseen force, one that threatened to consume us both, to drag us into the shadows where it dwelled, waiting for the moment to strike. "Not as here," she said, her voice barely audible, a mere whisper in the darkness, her eyes filled with a knowledge that I could not grasp. "It mimics, it deceives. But we must not let it in." Her words were a warning, a plea for vigilance and strength, a reminder of the danger that lurked just beyond the edge of our perception, waiting to pounce. I nodded, determined to stand by her side, even as fear gnawed at my insides, threatening to overwhelm me, to pull me into the abyss. As days turned into weeks, the presence of Nat became more pronounced, more insistent, more real. It was as if the very air was charged with its presence, a constant reminder of the unseen battle we were waging. I would catch glimpses of it in mirrors, hear its footsteps echoing mine, feel its breath on the back of my neck, a constant reminder of its presence. It was as if it was trying to seep into our world, to become a part of our lives, to consume everything we held dear, to take from us the light and warmth that we cherished. My grandmother's rituals grew more intense, her chants louder, more desperate, as she fought to keep the darkness at bay, to hold back the tide of shadows that threatened to engulf us. The rituals, once a source of mystery, became a lifeline, a beacon of hope in the encroaching darkness. I joined her, hoping that together we could keep the darkness at bay, that our combined strength would be enough to ward off the encroaching shadows. But Nat was relentless, its hunger palpable. It seemed to feed off our fear, growing stronger with each passing day, its presence an ever-looming threat that hung over us like a storm cloud. One night, as I lay in bed, I heard a soft knock on my door. My grandmother's voice called out, but something in me knew it wasn't her. There was a hollowness to the sound, a lack of warmth that set my nerves on edge, sending shivers down my spine, filling me with dread. I stayed silent, clutching the blankets as if they could protect me from the malevolent force lurking outside, praying for it to go away, for the nightmare to end, for the dawn to bring light and safety. The door creaked open, and I saw her silhouette, or rather, the thing that wore her shape. It smiled at me, a grotesque parody of my grandmother's warmth, its eyes empty and soulless, its presence a mockery of the love and comfort I had known. The sight was both terrifying and heart-wrenching, a distortion of everything I held dear. I squeezed my eyes shut, praying for it to go away, for the nightmare to end, for the morning light to chase away the shadows, to bring with it the safety and warmth of a new day. When I opened them again, the room was empty, but the sense of dread lingered, a heavy presence that refused to be banished. It was a reminder of the darkness that had seeped into our lives, a constant presence that refused to be banished, a shadow that clung to us, refusing to let go, a reminder of the battle we fought each day. The next morning, my grandmother was gone. I searched the house frantically, calling her name, but there was no answer, only silence and shadows. Her absence was a void, a chasm that seemed impossible to bridge. It was as if she had vanished into thin air, leaving only her candle and the lingering scent of lavender, a haunting reminder of her presence. Desperate and alone, I continued the rituals, hoping to keep Nod at bay, to hold on to the hope that she would return, that her light would once again fill the house with warmth and love. But it was always there, lurking in the shadows, a constant reminder of what I had lost, of the void that had opened in my life, a void that seemed impossible to fill. Days turned into months, and I clung to the hope that my grandmother was still out there, somewhere, waiting to be found, waiting to return to the home she loved. I kept the candle burning, whispering her chants into the night, hoping that one day she would return, that her light would once again fill the house with warmth and love, that the shadows would be banished forever. But deep down, I knew the truth. Nod had taken her, swallowed her light, and left me with nothing but shadows, shadows that threatened to consume me. Yet, I continued the rituals, a silent promise to her and a defiance against the darkness that sought to consume me, a battle that I fought each day. In the end, it was all I could do to hold on to the memories, to fight against the unseen, and to keep the light burning in the hopes that one day, I would find her again. The house, once a sanctuary, had become a battleground, a place where the lines between reality and nightmare blurred, where shadows danced and whispered secrets. Yet, I refused to give in, to let the darkness claim me as it had claimed her. I would fight, for her and for myself, until the very end, determined to keep her memory alive, to honor her legacy, and to stand against the shadows that sought to consume us both. Each day was a testament to her strength, a reminder of the love and warmth she had brought into my life, a promise that I would not let the darkness win. The struggle was constant, but so was my resolve, a tribute to the woman who had taught me the true meaning of courage and love. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. From my earliest memories, the untouched wilderness has always exerted a powerful and almost mystical pull on me. It captivated my imagination and drew me in with a magnetic force that was as mysterious as it was compelling. There was a deep-seated longing within my soul, a yearning I could never quite articulate, to lose myself in the vast embrace of nature. The serenity found in ancient forests, the gentle whisper of the wind weaving through the leaves, and the secrets held by towering mountains called out to me with an undeniable allure. It was the pristine beauty of these places, combined with the promise of hidden wonders waiting to be unearthed, that beckoned to me like the irresistible song of sirens. This profound enchantment with nature had been a constant companion throughout my life, fueling a dream that one day I might become a guardian of these wild lands. When the opportunity finally arose to work as a fire lookout in one of the nation's most expansive and untouched national parks, it felt as if the universe had aligned perfectly to fulfill my deepest aspiration. This job was not merely a position, it was a crucial step toward joining the ranks of park rangers, individuals whom I deeply admired for their unwavering devotion and commitment to preserving the sanctity of nature. The path to this career had been fraught with challenges, countless applications sent and reconsidered, each one an attempt to bridge the gap between my current self and my dreams. And now, after what seemed like an endless period of waiting and hoping, the call had finally come through, igniting a profound joy within me, one that felt almost surreal, as if I were living in a dream. The training that accompanied the position was undeniably rigorous, designed to test our limits and prepare us for the myriad responsibilities that lay ahead. Every routine and procedure was meticulously crafted to ensure that we could handle any potentially dangerous situation with confidence and skill. It was demanding both physically and mentally, yet each day felt invigorated with purpose as I ventured deeper into a realm I had longed to be a part of. There was a certain thrill in gearing up, knowing that every piece of information absorbed was another building block towards achieving my dream. No amount of exhaustion could overshadow the buzz of anticipation I carried with me, as every lesson brought me closer to a reality I had cherished for so long. On the concluding day of our training, the assignments allocated to us bore a weight of responsibility that underscored their importance. My supervisor, Ross, an experienced and knowledgeable guide, entrusted me with the task of identifying potential fire hazards within the park. It was a mission that required not just an eye for detail, but also an understanding of the delicate balance we aimed to maintain. As we embarked on our patrol, scanning the landscape with mindful vigilance, my heart pounded with a mixture of apprehension and eagerness. It wasn't long before the distant sight of smoke served as a harbinger of human interference, an unregistered campfire breaking the rules we swore to uphold. The sight of it sent a ripple through the calm, signaling potential danger that needed to be addressed swiftly. We opted to divide our efforts, with Ross taking the eastern path while I ventured westward, drawn to the smoky tendrils that marred the sky. The depths of the forest held a captivating mystery, each step forward enveloping me in the canopy's embrace. However, as I moved further from the familiar trails, a peculiar stillness began to pervade the air. Where the forest should have sung with life, there was a profound and unsettling silence, a stillness that seemed almost unearthly in its intensity. The vibrant chorus of chirping insects and melodious birdsong was eerily absent, replaced instead by a vacuum of sound that left behind a noticeable void. It was a silence as if the very trees held their breath, impassive witnesses to what lay ahead. It was within this stillness that I stumbled upon something wholly unexpected yet indisputably captivating, a stone archway carved with meticulous precision, revealing itself amidst the dense foliage. The archway appeared ancient, as though it had been standing for centuries, its stone surface etched with intricate symbols that lay beyond my comprehension. It looked as though civilizations long past had left their marks upon it, whispering tales from a time of myth and legend. As I approached closer, a palpable mix of awe and trepidation washed over me. The structure seemed to radiate an aura that was both inviting and foreboding, an enigmatic presence that beckoned the curious insatiably. Compelled by a fascination that bordered on compulsion, I found myself moving forward almost involuntarily, intrigue triumphing over caution as I stepped through the archway. The instant I crossed its threshold, a sweeping sensation of dizziness overtook me, its intensity overwhelming. My equilibrium faltered, and I found myself struggling against a potent wave of disorientation. I pressed on, determined to regain my senses despite the unsettling shift in consciousness. When clarity finally returned, it brought with it a shock that sent shivers through my core. Everything was different. The world I had emerged into resembled our own, yet was disturbingly altered by an indefinable strangeness. Familiar landscapes around me felt slightly skewed, the colors too vibrant, pulsating with an unnatural brilliance. It was a place that seemed crafted from dreams, envisioned through the eyes of a dreamer and brought to life in unsettling abstraction. Shadows cast peculiar shapes, and even the air bore a scent that was foreign to my senses. More unsettling still was the pervasive undercurrent of threat, a sense of impending dread that tainted the fantastical landscape. Out of the periphery, they appeared without warning, grotesque creatures slipping silently from the shadows. While their forms held a semblance of humanity, everything about them was achingly wrong. Skewed features gave them an appearance that was distinctly otherworldly. Their eyes glowed with a piercing, eerie intelligence that seemed to see through me. Low, guttural whispers filled the air, lodging themselves in my mind as a cacophony of disjointed voices. A chilling wave of fear engulfed me, freezing my muscles and thoughts alike. Survival instincts kicked in, adrenaline roaring through my veins as my senses screamed at me to flee, urging escape with an urgency I'd never before experienced. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, a grim realization struck with the force of a physical blow. David, a fellow trainee who had initially set out along a parallel route, was inexplicably missing, his presence wholly absent in the engulfing terror that surrounded me. Panic surged as I called out his name, my voice consumed by the oppressive quiet pressing from all sides. It was as though the very air conspired with the unknown entities to conceal any semblance of familiarity or safety. My internal compass spun wildly, and every path I took seemed to twist back upon itself in an ever-tightening spiral. Hours stretched and warped under the weight of desperation, each moment spent navigating the alien landscape stacking one upon another in mounting dismay. With my resolve dwindling and hope slipping further from reach, a footstep echoed fortuitously upon the threshold. With a mix of relentless determination and sheer fortune, I recovered the path back to the archway. Crossing its boundary felt akin to being released, though the reality I returned to was tainted by the abyss I'd left. Back in the real world, a familiar figure awaited me with apparent worry lining his features. Ross stood by, his expression an amalgam of relief at my return and anger nearing palpable over my inexplicable disappearance. In spite of the bitter reprimand that followed, the sense of relief flooding my system was potent. However, that relief soon waned as I recognized an unsettling change buried deep within me, a lingering sensation, a flicker from the other side that pierced my very soul. Within the confines of safety, in the human realm supposedly free from unnatural horrors, I found myself haunted by the experiences I could not leave behind. Night after night, my dreams entwined me in visions filled with unsettling landscapes and the insistent whispers of alien creatures, their ethereal voices echoing long after I woke, refusing to be silenced. Every reflection within mirrors appeared altered as if another presence peered back, a shadow, a distortion of my own visage. The transition from dimensions had left me forever changed, and I became profoundly aware that I had not returned alone. Parts of my being remained entangled in the place I sought to leave, and the very essence of whatever had journeyed back with me imbued every waking hour with an unmistakable dread. Now, the mere rustle of leaves or a distant snap of a twig evokes overwhelming fear. Each venture into the forest reignites the buried terrors I tried, unsuccessfully, to leave behind. Transformed irrevocably, I exist within endless echoes of what ought to have been unseen. True terror now resides not solely within the grotesque beings or the altered reality I foolishly wandered into, but lies within the changes rendered upon my very existence. The forest, once my sanctuary and respite, now serves as an eternal reminder of the abyss I dared explore, and the enigmatic whisperings that shall forever haunt my memories, perpetually echoing the unseen. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I vividly recall the persistent creak of the old floorboards in my grandmother's ancient house, each one like a voice calling from the depths of history, a chorus that sang under the burden of countless years and unspoken secrets. The house itself seemed a relic from an era long past, much like my grandmother, who had journeyed across the ocean from Ireland with nothing more than a small suitcase and a heart overflowing with untold stories. Yet, there was one story she never disclosed, a shadow that remained ever present in the corners of her eyes and in the muted, reverent tones of her nightly prayers. Those prayers seemed to carry a weight I couldn't understand at the time, a solemnity that hinted at something more than mere tradition. When I first moved in with her, I was merely a boy, innocent and blissfully ignorant of the dark tapestry that had been woven into the fabric of our existence. At first, her strange rituals seemed nothing more than an eccentric habit. Each evening, she would light an assortment of candles, their flickering flames casting long shadows across the walls, and she would murmur incantations in a language that was foreign and mysterious to my young ears. I watched as she traced intricate, almost dance-like symbols in the air with her hands, movements deliberate and precise. She assured me it was all part of an ancient tradition meant to keep us safe, to guard us from the things that shouldn't be. Her eyes would sometimes meet mine, holding a depth of understanding that I was yet to grasp. It didn't take long for me to begin to understand what she meant by those peculiar words. It started with whispers, soft yet insistent, rustling through the corridors even when the wind outside lay still. I would hear my name being called from empty rooms, shadows that seemed to flicker just beyond the edge of my vision, always eluding my gaze. At night, I dreamt of a figure standing silently beside my bed, its face obscured and veiled in shadow, a silent sentinel in the dark. The dreams were vivid, leaving me with a sense of unease that lingered throughout the day, a chill that clung to my skin like a second layer. The first time I saw it, truly saw it, I was alone in the dimly lit living room. I turned, and there it was, standing in the doorway. It bore an unsettling likeness to my grandmother, yet something was profoundly amiss. Its eyes were unnaturally dark, voids that hinted at an unknowable depth, and its smile was unnervingly wide, stretching across its face like a crack in the fabric of reality. I blinked, and it vanished, leaving behind only a lingering chill that seemed to seep into my bones. The encounter left me shaken, questioning the very nature of reality and the safety of the world I had known. I rushed to my grandmother, breathless and filled with a nameless terror. She pulled me close, her embrace a refuge against the creeping dread, whispering that it was not her, that it was not anyone. She referred to it as the shadow that wasn't, a malevolent presence that mimicked those it sought to consume, feeding upon fear and thriving in despair. Her voice trembled slightly, betraying the fear she tried so hard to conceal, a fear that had clearly haunted her for many years. As the days turned to weeks, the presence grew bolder, more audacious in its haunting. It would materialize in mirrors, its dark eyes locking with mine before dissolving into nothingness as if mocking my efforts to deny its reality. I would catch fleeting glimpses of it in the garden, standing among the flowers, watching with a silent, insatiable hunger that made my skin crawl. My grandmother's rituals became more frantic, her prayers tinged with desperation as if sensing that her strength was waning. Her hands, once steady, began to tremble as she traced the protective symbols, and her voice, once strong, wavered ever so slightly during the incantations. I gathered the courage to ask her why it was here, why it tormented us so relentlessly. Her eyes, usually so full of warmth and kindness, turned cold and distant, as if looking back along the paths of memory. She spoke of a time long past, of a family lost to the shadows of history. She had managed to escape, but it had followed, drawn irresistibly to the fear that perpetually dwelled within her heart. Her voice was heavy with regret, a sorrow that seemed to echo through the room, filling the spaces between her words with a silence that spoke volumes. Together, we fought to keep it at bay, a relentless struggle against an ever-present foe. I learned the rituals, the strange, burning words that seared my tongue with their power, and the symbols that danced and shimmered before my eyes. We worked in tandem, united in purpose, our bond serving as a shield against the encroaching darkness that threatened to overtake us. Yet, no matter how hard we fought, the shadow seemed to grow ever stronger, its hold tightening like a noose around our lives. It was as if the very act of resisting it gave it strength, feeding off the energy we expended in our attempts to repel it. One ominous night, as a fierce storm raged outside, it came for us with a terrible vengeance. The old house groaned under its oppressive weight, the very walls trembling with its presence as if crying out in protest. My grandmother and I stood side by side, our voices rising in defiance against the oncoming tide of darkness. The air around us crackled with an otherworldly energy, the candles flickering wildly in the tempest as if caught in a dance of life and death. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil within, each crash of thunder a reminder of the battle we were fighting. In that fateful moment, I saw it clearly for the first time. It was neither human nor beast, a shifting mass of shadows and malevolence, an entity born of nightmares. It reached for us, its touch cold and suffocating, like the grasp of icy death itself. I felt my strength begin to waver, my resolve faltering under its chilling gaze. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat a drum signaling the approach of something ancient and terrible. But my grandmother stood firm beside me, her voice unwavering and strong, a beacon of light in the encroaching darkness. She spoke words of power, words of banishment that echoed with the authority of ages. The shadow recoiled, its form unraveling before our eyes like smoke caught in a gale. With a final, anguished wail, it was gone, leaving only a profound silence in its wake. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the chaos that had filled the room moments before, a reminder of the fragility of peace. We collapsed into each other's arms, exhausted but victorious, our spirits buoyed by the knowledge that we had triumphed, if only for a moment. The house was ours once more, the shadows banished to the forgotten corners where they belonged. Yet the victory was bittersweet, for I knew deep down that it would return, drawn once more by the fear it had sown within our hearts. The knowledge that it was only a temporary reprieve lingered at the edges of my consciousness, a shadow of its own. In the days that followed, my grandmother's health began to decline rapidly. The battle had taken its toll, her spirit weary from years of relentless fighting against a never-ending darkness. She passed away quietly one morning, leaving me alone in the house that had been our sanctuary, our refuge from the storm. Her absence was a palpable void, a silence that echoed through the halls where her laughter once rang. I continued the rituals in her memory, my voice echoing through the empty, silent rooms that once held her laughter and warmth. I felt her presence beside me, a comforting warmth in the pervasive darkness, a reminder that the shadow had taken much from us, but it could never take the love we shared, the bond that held us together even in the darkest of times. Her memory was a light that guided me, a beacon that shone brightly in the night. As I write these words, I can feel it watching, lurking just beyond the veil, waiting patiently for another moment of weakness. But I am not afraid. I have faced the darkness and emerged stronger, changed but unbroken. The shadow may linger at the edges of my vision, but it will never claim me. I am my grandmother's legacy, a steadfast guardian against the night, a beacon of hope in the endless dark. Her teachings, her strength, live on in me, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. And so, I light the candles each evening, whisper the sacred words that bind me to her memory, and hold fast to the cherished image of her smile. The shadow may be patient, but so am I. It will find no fear here, only the enduring light of a love that was and always will be, a light that shines brightly against the encroaching night, unyielding and eternal. This light, born of love and memory, stands as a testament to the bond we shared, a bond that even the deepest shadows cannot sever. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. In the curious and enigmatic neighborhood where I resided, the legend of the Headless Reaper seemed to inhabit every nook and cranny, echoing ominously through the dim-lit alleys and shadow-laden streets. Whispers filled the air, like ghosts of stories that refused to be laid to rest. Children, with eyes wide with a mix of fear and excitement, would gather to share tales of a fearsome figure, an eerie man who rode through the night on a sinister lawnmower. His laughter, sharp and dissonant, was said to be so piercing that it sliced through the velvet night, resonating like a discordant and threatening melody. Ignoring such stories was nearly impossible, as they seeped through the very bones of the neighborhood, weaving themselves into the communal psyche and the landscape itself. The tales of the Headless Reaper were a constant presence, a chilling backdrop to the otherwise mundane rhythm of daily life. They were like an invisible thread, binding the community together in a shared, albeit unsettling, narrative. The stories were passed down from one generation to the next, each retelling adding a layer of mystery and fear. The Reaper was said to be a spectral figure, a ghostly presence that could appear at any moment, his laughter a harbinger of doom. The very thought of him sent shivers down the spines of even the bravest among us. Initially, the tales seemed to hold the weight of mere folklore, a collective creation designed to keep rambunctious children in check or to rationalize the inexplicable noises that tiptoed through our evenings. That comforting disbelief persisted until our neighbor, Lila, inexplicably disappeared. The atmosphere shifted dramatically. Where there had been amusement, now there was palpable dread, slithering through the community like a cold, creeping mist that traced a shiver up your spine. Even the most ordinary of daily tasks transformed into trials of courage. The disappearance of Lila was a turning point, a moment when the legend of the Headless Reaper became all too real. It was as if the stories had stepped out of the shadows and into the harsh light of day. The community was gripped by fear, a collective anxiety that seeped into every aspect of life. The once vibrant neighborhood was now shrouded in a cloak of unease, the Reaper's presence felt in every creak of a floorboard, every rustle of leaves. Traversing homeward alone, fatigued from the hustle and bustle of everyday life, the spectral narrative of the Headless Reaper gripped my thoughts relentlessly. The anticipation and anxiety intertwined, causing my pace to unconsciously accelerate as the shadows stretched longer, consuming the light, and the air grew heavy with nighttime's embrace. Faintly, it seemed, I could perceive the ghostly laughter in the distance, colliding with the murmurs of the wind and the gentle rustling of the leaves around me. It is fascinating how the mind, so easily, crafts illusions that feel so real. Each journey home became a test of nerves, a battle against the creeping fear that threatened to overwhelm me. The Reaper's legend loomed large in my mind, a constant companion on those solitary walks. The shadows seemed to move with a life of their own, stretching and shifting as if to envelop me in their darkness. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified, every movement magnified. The laughter, though distant, was a constant reminder of the lurking menace, a chilling echo that played tricks on my mind. One particular evening, when dusk had surrendered completely to the inky folds of night, I unexpectedly crossed the threshold from fictional fear to chilling reality. After visiting a friend's house, I found myself detouring through an infrequently traveled path, driven by the desire to expedite my return home. I had inadvertently ventured into the domain of the story. And there he was, the notorious apparition of our macabre stories, solidified in flesh and shadow under the waning glow of a solitary street lamp that flickered like a dying firefly. The searing laughter, so familiar yet so alien, slashed through the tentative silence, shattering the calm and vibrating through my very core. As he turned towards me, our eyes met, or it felt like they did, but his features remained shrouded in an unsettling darkness. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, the world around me frozen in a tableau of terror. The Reaper was no longer a mere figment of imagination, but a living, breathing entity. His presence was overwhelming, a dark force that seemed to drain the very light from the world. The laughter, once a distant echo, was now a deafening roar, a sound that reverberated through my very being. It was as if the shadows had come alive, wrapping themselves around me in a suffocating embrace. In that fateful instant, primal survival instincts surged forward and took control, propelling me into a terrified flight I would have thought impossible. The world around me dissolved into a blur, trees whipping past as my heart drummed a frantic rhythm in my chest. Every corner of my being was attuned to the low, menacing growl of the moor that trailed after me, the shadowy presence closing the distance with alarming speed. I dared not glance back, lest I confirm my worst fears. The flight was a desperate one, a race against a nightmare-made flesh. My legs moved of their own accord, driven by a primal need to escape the clutches of the Reaper. The world around me was a cacophony of sound and movement, the growl of the moor a constant companion. I could feel the Reaper's presence, a dark force that seemed to close in on me with every step. The fear was palpable, a living thing that spurred me on, urging me to run faster, to escape the darkness that threatened to engulf me. Reaching home was a triumph marred by lingering angst. I was trembling, breathless, and awash in relief tempered by the unnerving knowledge that the sense of safety was but an illusion. The cackling continued to stalk me in dreams, surfacing in the quiet confines of my mind when defenses were down. Even as months drifted by, failing to erode the initial terror completely, the shadows in my world seemed to stretch endlessly and deepen. The Reaper, though unsuccessful in capturing me physically that night, imprinted upon me a mark indelible and insidious, a shadow that clung with determined persistence, refusing to dissipate. The encounter had left a lasting impression, a scar that refused to heal. The Reaper's laughter was a constant presence, a haunting melody that played on a loop in the recesses of my mind. Even in the safety of my home, I could not escape the feeling of being watched, of being hunted. The shadows seemed to have a life of their own, stretching and shifting as if to remind me of the lurking threat. The Reaper had not caught me, but he had left his mark, a dark stain on my soul that refused to fade. Every rustle of leaves, every distant and familiar rumble of an engine served as a merciless reminder of his lurking presence, always somewhere beyond sight, ever in waiting. My existence transformed into a continuous dance with unease, a silent testament carved from an encounter that twisted a simple legend into a vivid and chilling reality. Although the community struggled to return to normality, and I with it, a shared, unspoken understanding bound us together, his presence was inescapable. Somewhere, embedded in the depths of our collective memory, lay the unyielding truth, an eternal presence whose laughter seeped into the very core of our existence. It had become part of us, a sentient shadow, ever whispering the cold reminder that many stories spring from unsettling truths best left silent and unspoken. The Reaper was a part of us now, an indelible thread woven into the fabric of our lives. His laughter was a constant reminder of the darkness that lurked just beyond the edges of our perception, a chilling echo that refused to be silenced. The community, once vibrant and full of life, was now a place of whispered fears and unspoken truths. We were bound together by the shared knowledge of the Reaper's presence, a collective understanding that he was always there, watching, waiting. The legend had become our reality, a haunting reminder of the power of stories and the truths they often conceal. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I find myself ensconced in the secluded halls of an ancient archive, a labyrinthine repository filled with secrets and the echoes of histories long forgotten. These halls are vast, their walls lined with shelves that stretch into shadowy heights where dust dances in the beams of filtered light. The corridors wind and weave like a maze, calling out to those with a thirst for discovery and an affinity with the past. Each day, I immerse myself in the past, surrounded by the musty scent of old books and the tactile presence of weathered artifacts. This environment becomes a sanctuary to me, a peaceful escape from the chaos of the outside world. My role here is multifaceted, serving both as an archivist and a guardian of these relics, handling each piece with the care and reverence it deserves. I find satisfaction in this labor of love, engaging in the delicate art of preservation and exploration. It's a vocation that invites endless curiosity, offering new mysteries in every drawer and document, and demands an acceptance of things not easily explained by the rational mind, often leaving questions unanswered and truths half revealed. The weight of history presses in from all sides, an almost tactile pressure that influences my thoughts and feelings, and the silence is profound, broken only by the rustle of pages, the scratching of my pen, and the occasional creak of the building settling around me. The air is thick with the presence of those who came before, their stories waiting patiently to be rediscovered and understood, calling out in silent whispers to those willing to hear them, compelling us to piece together their narratives. Among the myriad of relics, one particular curiosity captures my attention with an intensity unlike any other. Concealed within the false bottom of an early colonial chest lies a file that stands apart from the rest. Its contents are as enigmatic as they are unsettling, a collection of symbols and ancient languages that seem to whisper the names of forgotten deities. The file unfolds a narrative of an arcane ritual, deeply entrenched in the worship of an archaic forest god. Each symbol is unique, each curve and line carrying an unknown meaning that tempts my intellect. My intrigue compels me to delve deeper, led on by a fascination that refuses to be quenched, and I soon uncover a letter that recounts the tale of a family bound to this deity through a series of clandestine rites and blood offerings. The words are penned in a shaky hand, as if the author was driven by desperation or fear, and each sentence seems to pulse with a life of its own. The ink, faded and smudged, hints at the passage of time and the weight of the secrets it holds, whispering of events only the walls can testify to. The further I read, the more a sense of unease takes root within me. The family's secret rituals, conducted under the shroud of night within the shadows of an ancient forest, hint at powers beyond human comprehension. The details evoke vivid images of secluded clearings under a canopy of gnarled and twisted trees. The letter elaborates on a mystical presence that watches from the woods, a presence that demands both reverence and sacrifice. Each word pulls me further into a web of mystery and dread, ensnaring my thoughts with its dark allure, inviting me to explore its depths yet warning me against uncovering its truths. The descriptions are vivid, painting a picture of moonlit clearings and ancient trees that seem to whisper secrets of their own, their branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. The imagery is haunting, as if the forest itself is alive, a sentient being with its own desires and intentions, enfolding those within it in an embrace that is as welcoming as it is suffocating. Accompanying these revelations are 4 enigmatic cats that roam the archive with an air of inscrutable mystique. Their eyes, gleaming like polished gemstones in the dim light, seem to hold the knowledge of the secrets contained within the archive. Each step they take is deliberate, each glance measured. These feline custodians of silence have been here longer than I have, becoming part of the fabric of this place, their presence both comforting and disquieting. They stir within me a torrent of questions. What do they know of the shadows that linger here? Are they mere animals, or do they embody something far more profound? Do they know of the watchers that the letter detailed, perhaps communing with them in the quiet hours of the night? Their movements are graceful and deliberate, as if they are patrolling the boundaries of a realm only they can perceive. They seem to glide through the aisles, their presence as much a part of the archive as the artifacts themselves, a silent testament to the mysteries enclosed within these walls. The existence of the cats, intertwined with the cryptic artifacts and the family's tale of devotion to the forest deity, paints a picture that is both bizarre and fascinating, filled with layers waiting to be uncovered. Yet, there's a chilling undertone to this connection, something that makes the hairs on the back of my neck bristle in anticipation of a tragedy that feels inevitable. I cannot shake this foreboding. The longer I dwell on it, the more I sense the weight of an impending doom, a feeling that whispers warnings to my mind in the quiet moments of reflection. Each interaction with the cats feels charged with unspoken meaning, their eyes reflecting a depth of understanding that seems to pierce through the veil of time. Their silent companionship is a constant reminder of the mysteries that surround me, and I find myself both comforted and unnerved by their presence, wondering if they are here as guides or as guards. As the hours stretch into days, the story of the family unfolds slowly, like the peeling layers of an onion, revealing the darkness at its core. Each new discovery, each revelation, is a key unlocking further doors. The power of the forest deity, the binding of blood, and the eventual unraveling of the family's fate send shivers cascading down my spine. The narrative contains a darkness that feels alive, reaching out to tangle with my thoughts and emotions. There's an ominous foreboding that the secrets I've uncovered are not meant for mortal eyes, and their revelation comes with a price that I may not be prepared to pay. The narrative is relentless, drawing me deeper into its depths, and I feel a growing sense of urgency, as if the past is reaching out to claim the present, extending its incorporeal hands into my world. The boundaries between my reality and the world of the archive blur, and I am caught in the middle, a reluctant participant in a story that defies explanation. With every page I translate and every symbol I decode, the shadows around me seem to thicken, their whispers against my ear growing more insistent and chilling. It is as if my very act of discovery awakens unseen forces. The cats, too, appear more vigilant, their eyes following my every move as if questioning my intrusion into affairs perhaps best left buried among the dust and time. They watch me with an intent gaze, as though measuring my resolve. Their silent scrutiny adds to the tension, a constant reminder of the enigmatic forces at play. I find myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see the shadows coalesce into something tangible and terrifying. The sense of being watched is palpable, and I wonder whether the archive itself is alive, its secrets eager to be told, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves in full frightful majesty. I find myself irresistibly drawn into the mystery, unable to resist its pull, until one fateful night the shadows come alive. The whispers solidify into echoes of the past, and I am engulfed by visions of the rituals conducted in the forest. I see the light of the moon illuminating paths that haven't been walked in centuries. The family stands silhouetted against the flickering light of flames, their faces masks of fear and devotion. The deity, a shadow amongst shadows, stretches out a hand. It feels like an invitation, or perhaps a dire warning. I am caught between the world I know and the world I am discovering. The air is thick with tension, and I can almost feel the heat of the flames and the chill of the forest night. The experience is surreal, and I am caught between worlds, a witness to events that defy logic and reason, my senses overwhelmed by the history unfolding before me. Hours stretch into eternity as I stand transfixed, a part of the past yet anchored in the present by the soft brush of feline fur against my leg. The cats, my silent companions, offer a lifeline amid the swirling chaos, anchoring me back to the reality of the archive. Their presence is a balm, a reminder that I am not entirely alone in this unnerving exploration of the unknown. I take comfort in their steady gaze, their unwavering presence a beacon of stability in a world that seems to be unraveling around me. They are my guardians, my protectors, and I feel a deep connection to them, as if we are bound by a shared understanding of the mysteries that surround us. Our unspoken camaraderie strengthens my resolve, instilling a sense of duty to uncover the truths cloaked in shadow. As dawn breaks, the visions fade, leaving me alone but irrevocably changed. The archive, once a place of learning and discovery, now feels like a forbidden alcove of unending mystery. The story of the family and the forest deity isn't merely a tale of past and ritual, it has become a living entity that has seeped into the very walls of this place, and within me. I find myself thinking in new ways, my perceptions altered by what I've encountered. The weight of this realization is profound, altering my perception of the archive and my role within it. I feel a kinship with the shadows, a connection that transcends time and space, binding me to the secrets I have uncovered. The archive is no longer just a repository of the past. It is a living, breathing entity, and I am both its keeper and its captive, forever entwined with the whispering shadows that dwell within. I know not what the future holds, but the shadows have imparted one vital lesson. Some secrets are best left untouched, lurking just beyond the veil of human comprehension. They remain, waiting in the silence, whispering to those who dare to listen. And the cats, my silent, watchful guardians, continue their rounds, weaving through the aisles, keepers of the archive's unnerving truths. Their presence is a constant reminder of the delicate balance between knowledge and the unknown, a balance that I must navigate with caution and respect. As the shadows whisper their secrets, I am mindful of the power of the past and the mysteries that lie just beyond our understanding, an invitation and a warning to tread carefully in these hallowed halls. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I never foresaw that my career, with all its unexpected twists, turns, and challenges as a private investigator, would eventually lead me into the eerie, foreboding corridors of a lavish psychiatric facility. Yet, as fate would have it, there I was, surrounded by the immaculate, pristine white walls that seemed to close in around me, carrying the oppressive weight of silence and secrecy. The soft, unsettling whispers of troubled souls in distress only heightened the sense of unease that permeated the air. It was a place where every corner seemed to echo with the unspoken fears and anxieties of its inhabitants, where the very atmosphere was thick with a tension that was almost palpable. My name, if it hasn't been made clear already, is Alex Carter. I found myself deeply entrenched in the daunting task of locating Monica, a young woman who had mysteriously vanished without a trace, leaving her family in a state of turmoil and despair. Her brother, driven to the brink of hopelessness, saw me as his last beacon of hope. He came to me when all official avenues, including law enforcement, had been thoroughly exhausted and yielded no solace or direction, leaving him desperate for any glimmer of possibility that could lead to her whereabouts. Monica's life had tragically spiraled out of control, a downward trajectory painfully marked by relentless battles against alcohol dependency and substance abuse. Her brother was steadfast in his belief that the key to unraveling the mystery of her disappearance lay hidden within the confines of the opulent psychiatric institution where Monica had recently been admitted as a patient. On the surface, This establishment presented itself as a beacon of cutting-edge treatments, offering solace, healing, and rehabilitation for minds in chaos and turmoil. However, as I delved deeper and navigated through the complex labyrinth of its operations, a disturbing and unsettling truth began to unfold, casting ominous shadows over the facility's pristine claims and promises of hope and recovery. The more I explored, the more I realized that beneath the glossy exterior lay a world fraught with contradictions and hidden agendas, a place where appearances were meticulously maintained to conceal the darker realities within. It was as if the institution was a grand stage, and every interaction, every smile, was part of a carefully orchestrated performance designed to distract from the unsettling truths that lay beneath. To uncover the secrets lying dormant within its closely guarded walls, I devised a plan that was as daring as it was necessary. Assuming a different identity, I willingly entered the facility, not as an investigator seeking answers, but as a patient in search of help. This wasn't a decision I made lightly, but with determination and resolve, I stepped into a role that, surprisingly enough, was less challenging to play than I initially anticipated. Each interaction with the therapists was a study in contrast. They greeted me with well-rehearsed smiles, their words carefully laced with intended comfort and reassurance. Yet, beneath the polished veneer of warmth and empathy, their eyes struck me as cold and distant, triggering an underlying sense of foreboding and unease that I couldn't easily dismiss or ignore. It was as if their practiced kindness was a mask, hiding intentions that were far from benevolent, and I had to remain vigilant, always aware of the precariousness of my situation. I had to navigate this world carefully, aware that any misstep could potentially unravel my cover and endanger my mission. Days in the facility gradually morphed into weeks, and with each passing moment, the seamless facade of the institution began to show cracks and crumble right before my eyes. I became an observer of human despair, witnessing firsthand as patients, their spirits seemingly crushed, moved listlessly, almost mechanically, through the monotonous routines set for them by the institution. Their eyes held an emptiness that was haunting, and each vacant stare plucked at a chord deep within me, suggesting that a sinister layer of reality lay just beneath the surface, biding its time, waiting to be uncovered. The more I watched, the more I felt the weight of their hopelessness, a collective cry for help that resonated deeply within my own sense of justice and humanity. On one of my covert explorations through the sprawling facility, I stumbled upon a hidden wing, an obscure section conspicuously absent from any glossy promotional material or visitor brochures, a place shrouded in secrecy and silence. The discovery of this hidden wing was a turning point in my investigation. My heart was a drum in my chest as I ventured into rooms filled with forsaken, abandoned medical equipment, where the faint and familiar scent of antiseptic hung heavily in the air. The reality that I confronted was haunting and distressing. The facility was indulging in grotesquely unethical experiments, heedlessly disregarding moral boundaries and violating human dignity in ways I could scarcely comprehend or fathom. Patients were subjected to lobotomies, their identities and autonomy forsaken under the pretext of scientific research and clinical inquiry. The institution's gleaming reputation was nothing but an elaborate facade, effectively concealing the unspeakable horrors and atrocities that thrived within these pristine walls. The more I uncovered, the more I realized the depth of deception and the extent to which the facility had gone to protect its secrets, creating an environment where the vulnerable were exploited and the truth was a casualty of ambition and greed. It was a place where the lines between healing and harm were blurred, where the pursuit of knowledge overshadowed the sanctity of human life. Equipped with a hidden recording device, I meticulously documented every piece of evidence, every instance of brutality and violation I witnessed in chilling, unflinching detail. The scenes captured laid bare a narrative of exploitation, cruelty, and inhuman abuse, a haunting testament to the depths of human depravity and the darkness that lurked within. Armed with these revelations, I understood my responsibility to bring this truth to the world. However, I could not shake the lingering doubts and fears about the potential cost of exposing such darkness. The head of the facility, a man whose placid exterior belied his deeply warped and twisted worldview, confronted me with his chilling justification, a justification that chilled my soul and left me questioning humanity. He spoke dispassionately about confronting what he termed evil, suggesting that the patients were merely vessels, bearers of malevolence that needed eradication and reshaping to purify their supposed inner darkness and cleanse their souls. His haunting words resonated long after our unsettling encounter. They etched themselves on my psyche, pushing me into reflection on the blurred lines between sanity and madness, leading me to question if I was truly prepared to bear the weight of the consequences of my discoveries and the truth I had uncovered. The moral implications of what I had witnessed were profound, and the ethical dilemmas weighed heavily on my conscience. I grappled with the fear of retaliation and the potential harm that could befall me or others if I dared to expose the facility's dark secrets. The choice before me was fraught with peril, yet the urgency of bringing justice to the victims and preventing further atrocities was a call I could not ignore, a mission that demanded courage and conviction. I knew that the path I was on was fraught with danger, but the necessity of unveiling the truth and bringing those responsible to account was a burden I could not shirk. Even so, the thought of Monica and the countless other silenced victims who had endured unspeakable suffering and torment fortified my resolve. The truth concealed behind these walls demanded exposure, and I managed to extricate myself from the hospital's oppressive grasp, determined to cast a revealing light on the malignant shadows hidden from public view and bring justice to those who had suffered in silence. The journey to freedom was fraught with danger, but the drive to unveil the truth propelled me forward, despite the risks involved. With each step toward liberation, I felt the weight of responsibility grow, a reminder of the lives at stake and the imperative to act with integrity and purpose. It was a journey that tested my resolve at every turn, but the thought of the suffering I had witnessed kept me steadfast, reminding me of the importance of my mission. As I prepared to unveil my findings to the wider world beyond the hospital, a profound realization dawned on me. The shadows I had discovered were not merely confined to the physical realm of the hospital. They represented an existential darkness, spectral echoes residing within all of us, a reflection of humanity's capacity for cruelty and indifference. These shadows awaited recognition, understanding, and ultimately, their inevitable exposure to the relentless and unforgiving light of truth and justice. The process of bringing these revelations to light would not be easy, but it was necessary to confront the darkness and demand accountability. The journey ahead was daunting, yet the pursuit of justice and truth remained my guiding light, illuminating the path toward a better, more transparent world. As I stood on the precipice of revelation, I knew that the task before me was monumental, yet the promise of change and the hope of redemption for those who had suffered in silence gave me the strength to push forward, to shine a light on the shadows and demand a reckoning for the injustices perpetrated in the name of progress. The road was long and fraught with challenges, but the knowledge that my actions could bring about meaningful change fueled my determination, guiding me toward a future where truth and justice could prevail. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. Walking my dog through the thick, ancient woods had always been my sanctuary, a peaceful retreat from the chaos and noise of daily life. The towering trees, their branches intertwined, formed a natural canopy overhead, creating a kaleidoscope of colors that shifted with the changing seasons. In spring, the forest would burst into life, painting the landscape in vibrant hues of green and gold, while the serene silence of the woods wrapped around me like a comforting embrace. The rustling leaves whispered secrets, and the air was filled with the earthy scent of moss and damp soil. There truly was nothing else like it. This place, with its timeless beauty, felt like a world apart, a refuge where time seemed to stand still. Each visit to the forest was like stepping into a realm untouched by the passage of time, where the worries of the world melted away, leaving only the pure, unfiltered essence of nature. The forest was a symphony of sights and sounds, a living tapestry of life that unfolded with every step I took. The gentle rustle of leaves, the distant call of a bird, and the soft crunch of twigs underfoot created a melody that soothed my soul. It was a place where the mind could wander freely, unburdened by the constraints of modern life, and where the spirit could find solace in the harmony of the natural world. The forest's beauty was not just visual, it was an experience that engaged all the senses, drawing one into a world where every moment was a reminder of the earth's timeless rhythm. However, one particular evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the sky was bathed in the soft glow of twilight, I experienced an unexpected sensation, a euphoria so unusual that it sent tingling shivers across my skin. This peculiar high was both exhilarating and unsettling, as though I had stumbled upon a hidden secret of the forest. It was as if the very essence of the woods had seeped into my being, filling me with a sense of wonder and awe. The feeling was intoxicating, a blend of joy and mystery that left me breathless. It was as though the forest itself was alive, whispering its secrets to me in a language I could almost understand. The air was charged with energy, a palpable force that seemed to pulse through the trees and into my very core. My senses were heightened, every sound and sight magnified, as if the forest was revealing its true self to me for the first time. The colors of the leaves seemed more vibrant, the scents more intoxicating, and the sounds more melodic. I felt a connection to the forest that I had never experienced before, a bond that transcended the physical and entered the realm of the spiritual. This connection was profound, a deep-rooted feeling that the forest was more than just a collection of trees and wildlife. It was a living, breathing entity with its own soul and consciousness. The forest's whispers seemed to speak directly to my heart, resonating with a truth that was both ancient and eternal. It wasn't long before the familiar calm of the woods was abruptly interrupted by a deep, resonating roar. The sound was raw and primal, echoing through the trees like the call of a creature from a forgotten era. My dog froze, every muscle tense, his eyes fixated on a shadowy figure that seemed to take shape in the underbrush. The figure was indistinct, yet its form suggested something vaguely humanoid lurking just out of sight. I quickened my pace, heart pounding in my chest, as the eerie howls continued to follow us until we finally broke free from the confines of the forest. The encounter was both terrifying and exhilarating, a reminder of the untamed wildness that lay just beneath the surface of the forest's tranquil facade. As we hurried along the path, the shadows seemed to close in around us, the trees whispering secrets that I could not decipher. My mind raced with possibilities, each more fantastical than the last, as I tried to make sense of what I had witnessed. The forest, once a place of solace, now felt charged with an energy that was both alluring and frightening. It was as if the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural had blurred, leaving me to question the very nature of reality. The experience was a stark reminder of the forest's dual nature, a place of beauty and danger, where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted in a delicate balance. The shadows seemed to dance with a life of their own, weaving patterns that defied logic and reason, and the air was thick with the scent of mystery and intrigue. The encounter left an indelible mark on my mind, like a fragment of a story that had somehow woven itself into the fabric of my reality. That surreal sense of happiness I had felt seemed to carry an edge, a prelude to the haunting spectacle that followed. It was reminiscent of a forbidden fruit, enticing and yet fraught with danger. The forest, once a place of solace, now felt charged with an energy that was both alluring and frightening. As I began to share my experience with others, I discovered tales that mirrored my own, each one unique in its terror yet strikingly similar in essence. These stories, passed down through generations, spoke of encounters with the mysterious and the unknown, each adding another layer to the enigma of the woods. Friends and family shared their own experiences, tales of strange lights and shadowy figures that defied explanation. Each story was a thread in a tapestry of mystery, weaving a picture of a world just beyond our understanding. The forest, it seemed, was a place where the ordinary and the extraordinary coexisted, a realm where the boundaries of reality were fluid and ever-changing. The stories were a testament to the forest's power to inspire awe and fear, a reminder that the world is full of wonders that are yet to be discovered. Each tale added a new dimension to the forest's mystique, painting a picture of a place where the past and present intertwined, and where the line between reality and fantasy was blurred. My grandfather, a man of many stories, often spoke of the harsh winters of his youth. His eyes, lined with the marks of time, would light up as he recounted tales of survival and resilience. One evening, as the fire crackled in the hearth, he shared a memory veiled in the mist of nostalgia. It was a time when he had ventured onto a frozen lake, the biting cold biting at his skin and the ice groaning beneath his weight. There, amidst the stark whiteness, he encountered it, a monstrous, shaggy beast that moved with a terrifying grace. It was a giant, its fur tangled and matted, its eyes glowing with an ancient, primal intelligence. As he spoke, his voice trembled with the memory of being drawn to the creature, captivated by its mysterious allure, until reason finally broke the spell. The beast turned away, its massive form vanishing into the swirling snowstorm, yet its presence lingered in the icy expanse long after it had disappeared. The tale, told with a mix of fear and fascination, seemed to breathe life into the shadows of the past, reminding us of the thin veil between reality and the unknown. His stories were a window into a world long gone, a time when the line between man and nature was less defined, and the mysteries of the world were still shrouded in shadow. They were a testament to the enduring power of the unknown, a reminder that there are forces in the world that defy explanation and understanding. His tales were not just stories, they were a legacy, a connection to a time when the world was a place of wonder and danger, and where the boundaries between the known and the unknown were constantly shifting. These stories began to spread, whispers growing into murmurs, each more chilling than the last. A friend of mine recounted an experience while driving along a winding forest road, shrouded in the darkness of night. He described seeing a creature impossibly tall and thin, standing like a sentinel by the roadside. Its eyes glowed with a phosphorescent light, piercing through the shadows and sending a jolt of fear through his entire being. He pressed his foot on the accelerator, the car speeding up as a strange euphoria mingled with the terror, a sensation that had become all too familiar. The road, once a simple path through the woods, now seemed to hold secrets of its own, each curve and bend whispering of unseen watchers and hidden dangers. As he recounted the tale, his voice was tinged with both fear and wonder, a testament to the power of the unknown to captivate and terrify in equal measure. The forest, with its dense foliage and shadowy depths, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a living entity that watched and waited. It was a place where the past and present intertwined, where the boundaries between reality and myth blurred into a tapestry of wonder and fear. The road itself seemed to be a part of the forest's mystery, a path that led into the heart of the unknown, where the ordinary rules of the world no longer applied. The experience was a reminder that the forest was a place of magic and danger, where the line between reality and fantasy was blurred, and where the unknown waited just beyond the reach of the headlights. These creatures, these spectral apparitions of the forest, seemed to defy the limits of our understanding, leaving us grappling with more questions than answers. Were they guardians of the forest, or perhaps remnants of a world we had yet to fully comprehend? Our minds quaked with the thrill of the unknown, while our spines tingled with the primal fear of what might be lurking just beyond our sight. The forest, with its dense foliage and shadowy depths, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, a living entity that watched and waited. It was a place where the past and present intertwined, where the boundaries between reality and myth blurred into a tapestry of wonder and fear. As we pondered these questions, the forest remained silent, its secrets hidden behind a veil of shadows and whispers. Each visit was a journey into the unknown, a chance to explore the mysteries that lay just beyond the reach of our understanding. The creatures seemed to be a part of the forest's essence, a manifestation of its ancient spirit, a reminder that there are forces in the world that are beyond our comprehension. They were a testament to the forest's power to inspire awe and fear, a reminder that the world is full of wonders that are yet to be discovered. The forest's mysteries were a siren call, drawing us deeper into its depths, urging us to explore the unknown and discover the secrets that lay hidden in its shadowy embrace. The resonance of those eerie screeches, the haunting imprint of those glowing eyes, and the looming shadows that danced at the edges of our vision, they dwelled within us, engaging us in a dance of fascination and dread. Each tale was a tapestry woven with cautionary echoes, urging us to remain vigilant as we ventured into the depths of the untamed woods. The forest, with its whispering pines and rustling leaves, cradled secrets that were older than humanity itself. It was a place where the past and present intertwined, where the boundaries between reality and myth blurred into a tapestry of wonder and fear. And so, with each step we took within its depths, we held our breath, keeping our senses sharp and alert. For in the quiet, beneath the symphony of nature, lay the fear of what might awaken, urging us to question whether we were truly alone in the thickets of our world, or merely guests in a dominion of the uncanny. The forest's mysteries beckoned, a siren call that was impossible to ignore, leaving us to wonder what other secrets lay hidden in its shadowy embrace. As we walked the paths and trails, we felt the weight of the unknown pressing in, a reminder of the vastness of the world and the mysteries it held. The forest, in all its majesty and mystery, remained an enigma, a place where the imagination could roam free, and where the line between the known and the unknown was forever shifting. It was a realm of endless possibilities, a place where the past and present coexisted in a delicate balance, and where the mysteries of the world were waiting to be discovered. The forest was a place of magic and wonder, a reminder that the world is full of mysteries that are yet to be explored, and where the imagination could soar free, unburdened by the constraints of reality. Hope you enjoyed that spine-chilling experience. Now, let's move on to the next creepy tale. Ready to face more thrilling moments together? Let's dive into the next story right away. I could never have foreseen that our seemingly simple hiking trip, planned as a mere escape into the welcoming arms of nature's untouched beauty, would evolve into a narrative filled with tension and terror, a story I would later recount with trembling hands and a voice quivering with unease. It was during the vibrant season of midsummer, a time when the allure of endless days and warm nights beckoned my group of 5 friends and me to venture into the rugged wilderness of Alaska's Crow Pass. The prospect of immersing ourselves in adventure, intertwined with the magnetic allure of breathtaking landscapes, resonated deeply within us, drawing us irresistibly into its promise. Crow Pass, with its winding, untouched trails and wild, unspoiled beauty, seemed to be the quintessential escape from the monotony of our daily existence, offering a harmonious blend of tranquility and excitement that we eagerly anticipated. Our expedition commenced in the most ordinary fashion, devoid of any forewarnings that might have hinted at the ominous events looming ahead. The air, crisp and refreshing, was infused with the invigorating scent of pine, enveloping us as we navigated trails that crunched underfoot with pleasing regularity. Majestic mountains soared dramatically above us, casting long, impressive shadows, while the valleys unfurled in a series of stunning panoramas, each curve and bend revealing a new and breathtaking spectacle of nature's vast grandeur. Our laughter and spirited conversations reverberated through the air, a joyful expression of our camaraderie and shared excitement as we immersed ourselves fully in the enchanting surroundings. As dusk began to spread its serene embrace over the landscape, the sky transformed into a kaleidoscope of orange and purple hues, painting a scene of tranquil beauty. We chose a serene lake bordered by dense woods as our campsite, a decision made with high spirits and open hearts, completely oblivious to the lurking dangers encircling us. With the onset of night, a thickening silence began to cloak the picturesque surroundings, infusing the atmosphere with a burgeoning sense of unease. This silence was so profound that it seemed to amplify each rustling leaf and snapping twig, every sound echoing unnervingly in the hushed night. In our attempt to dispel the mounting tension, we began sharing ghost stories and spinning delightful yarns about mythical creatures, entertaining yet ultimately futile distractions designed to momentarily mask our unease, all the while blissfully unaware of the unfolding terror that awaited us. On that first night, I was jarred awake by a sound that defied explanation, a haunting whisper that drifted languidly through the air, carried on the wind from the depths of the forest. Initially, I attributed it to the power of suggestion. Our earlier conversations, mingled with my vivid imagination, seemed to concoct frightful illusions. Resolute in dismissing these eerie suspicions, I steeled myself and forced sleep to reclaim me. However, the morning's light revealed a scene fit for nightmares. Our tents lay savagely torn open, our carefully packed supplies scattered in utter disarray, as though a frenzied beast had rampaged through in the dead of night. A primal, deep-seated fear took hold of us as we commenced speculating on the cause behind this destruction. Our theories ranged wildly, from thoughts of lurking wildlife such as bears to notions of mischievous pranksters intent on instilling fear. However, an unshakable sensation hung heavy in the air, an inexplicable, ominous presence far more sinister and threatening than any figment of our imaginations seemed to be prowling amongst us, unseen but palpably felt. Taking no chances, we resolved to press on, hurriedly gathering our scattered belongings and continually casting anxious glances over our shoulders with mounting trepidation as we ventured toward what we hoped would be safety. That day, as the sun ascended to its zenith, we encountered another pair of hikers. They were youthful and visibly distressed, wandering aimlessly with a wary, anxious demeanor that mirrored our own uneasy mood. They shared their experiences, which resonated eerily with our own, the same nocturnal whispers, accentuated by deep, foreboding growls that triggered primal fear within each of us. In joining our group with theirs, we clung desperately to the belief that in numbers lay our sanctuary, a protective shield against the shrouded unknown. As dusk descended once more, capitulating to the engulfing darkness of night, those terrifying sounds returned, threading their way ominously through the trees with disturbing familiarity. This time, they were accompanied by the unmistakable crunch of footfalls, an ominous signal that whatever followed us was growing nearer, drawing steadily closer. It was as if we were being pursued, hunted by something that transcended human boundaries, something undeniably intelligent yet relentlessly tenacious. Each shadow seemed to pulsate with its own unsettling vibrancy, each silhouette hinting ominously at a lurking menace we could not see yet felt with acute intensity. Our instincts for survival screamed at us to flee. Fueled by a surge of adrenaline, we quickened our pace, driven by the instinctual urge to escape, a primal force that seemed to overshadow every other thought. Despite these efforts, those sinister shadows clung to us tenaciously, the uncanny whispers swelling into a crescendo of intensity that could no longer be dismissed. The incessant, unnerving sensation of unseen eyes tracking our every move persisted, even as we finally managed to break free of the forest's suffocating confines, emerging into more open terrain, signaling our proximity to the safety of civilization. Breathless and still grappling with our frayed nerves, we eventually stumbled upon the trailhead, a path that had once seemed inviting but now felt like a treacherous gauntlet we had only narrowly survived navigating. Despite reaching relative physical safety, a pervasive feeling of unease lingered. Something intangible yet intensely real had followed us, a spectral guardian of the deep wilderness, intent on warning intruders away from its secretive territory. In sharing our ordeal with others, we soon discovered that our experiences were anything but isolated. Numerous hikers recounted eerily familiar tales, describing encounters with cryptic creatures rumored to haunt these northern wilds, the notorious Wendigo or the elusive Bigfoot being among the most frequently mentioned. Each tale, though unique in specific details, spoke of the same pervasive unease, the unsettling whispers that seemed inexorably linked to the mysterious expanse of Alaskan wilderness, echoes of an ongoing enigma that has haunted many who dared venture into its depths. This haunting expedition forever altered my perception of the wilderness, instilling within me a profound respect for the uncharted territories and the enigmatic secrets they guard with relentless fervor. The memory of that fraught journey remains vivid, a constant reminder of the narrow boundary between thrilling adventure and survival, between curiosity and caution. I share this story not as an admonition against exploration, but as a call for heightened vigilance and respect for the unknown forces that dwell in the shadows. Be aware of the world around you, respect the mysteries of the wilderness, and never underestimate the intangible enigmas that lie hidden within the shadowed expanse of the northern wilds. The journey had started with a sense of innocent curiosity, an eagerness to explore and connect with nature in its most pristine form. We were drawn by the promise of untouched beauty, the call of the wild that promised both serenity and a touch of adventure. The thought of traversing Crow Pass, with its majestic landscapes and untamed trails, filled us with a sense of wonder and excitement. It was a chance to escape the daily grind, to lose ourselves in the vastness of the wilderness where time seemed to stand still. As we set out, there was no indication of the challenges that lay ahead. The air was fresh and invigorating, a gentle breeze carrying the scent of pine and earth. The mountains towered above us, their peaks kissed by the sun, while the valleys stretched out in an endless sea of green and gold. Every step we took seemed to bring us closer to a world untouched by time, where nature reigned supreme and the worries of everyday life faded into oblivion. Our spirits were high, buoyed by the camaraderie and the shared joy of discovery. We laughed and talked, our voices echoing through the trees as we made our way deeper into the heart of the wilderness. The path was a tapestry of sights and sounds, each turn revealing a new vista, a fresh perspective on the beauty that surrounded us. As the day gave way to night, we found solace by a tranquil lake, its surface reflecting the vibrant hues of the setting sun. It was a picture-perfect scene, one that filled us with a sense of peace and contentment. But as darkness fell, the atmosphere shifted. The once comforting silence became oppressive, each rustle of leaves and snap of twigs magnified in the stillness of the night. We huddled together, sharing stories and laughter in an attempt to ward off the growing sense of unease. Yet, beneath the surface, a feeling of foreboding began to take root, an inexplicable tension that hinted at the unknown dangers lurking just beyond the edge of the firelight. That first night, sleep was elusive. I found myself jolted awake by a sound that seemed to come from another world, a whisper carried on the wind, a voice that seemed to speak directly to my soul. I tried to brush it off as a trick of the mind, the result of our earlier tales and my own overactive imagination. But as dawn broke, the reality of our situation became all too clear. Our campsite was in disarray, our belongings scattered as if a wild animal had torn through in a frenzy. Fear took hold of us then, a primal instinct that urged us to flee. We gathered our things, our eyes darting nervously to the shadows that seemed to close in around us. Every rustle, every snap of a twig sent a jolt of adrenaline through our veins, a reminder that we were not alone. The presence that had haunted our dreams now seemed to stalk our every step, an unseen force that watched and waited from the depths of the forest. As we continued our journey, the sense of dread grew stronger. We encountered other hikers, their faces pale and drawn, their eyes reflecting the same fear that gripped our hearts. They spoke of whispers in the night, of shadows that moved with a life of their own. Their stories mirrored our own experiences, a chilling confirmation that something was amiss in the wilderness we had once viewed as a sanctuary. In the remote, shadowed corners of our world, there are places that defy conventional understanding and the rigid structures of logic. These are cryptic locales, perpetually draped in veils of mystery and steeped in layers stacked high with enigma. They possess an intrinsic duality, alluring yet simultaneously instilling deep fear and trepidation in those who are bold, or perhaps foolish enough, to approach their mystifying perimeters. One such place is Hawthorne Manor, a storied bastion of profound strangeness and unfathomable peculiarity that invites and prohibits in the same breath. The manor's very existence calls to mind a riddle that refuses all attempts at unraveling, a living puzzle, eternally locked and self-contained. Each groan of its time-worn wooden floors and every shadow cast along its venerable walls poses yet another question, beckoning for answers that elude comprehension. In an unexpected twist of fate, my aunt, having departed this world with minimal warning, bequeathed to me Hawthorne Manor, a haunting legacy. Her sudden passing was akin to the abrupt arrival of fierce autumn winds that herald change, eerily suggesting secrets carried on the air that weaves its way, thread by thread, through the ancient beams and rafters of the venerable house. Hawthorne Manor transcends the concept of a mere dwelling. It is almost a sentient being, a residence imbued with the life force of countless generations. Its corridors and chambers harbor secrets, harbor histories, maintain peculiarities, and sustain mysteries that augment its inherently intimidating aura. Situated strategically on the very brink of a vast and forbidding forest, the manor assumes the likeness of a consciousness, a thinking being in multiple, profound senses. Echoing whispers carried by the winds that ricochet off invisible corners, shadows dance and play with an inexplicable will independent from the physical relics and remnants of its past inhabitants. As I set foot on its grounds on an ethereal evening, the transition from day to night unfolded before my eyes into a spectacular display. The liminal hours of twilight cast their gentle veil, the sun reluctantly surrendered itself to the awaiting horizon, casting elongated shadows that stretched yearningly toward the encroaching blankets of night. As I drew closer to the manor, the imposing rusted iron gates seemed guardians in their own right. They uttered unspoken warnings wrapped in silent defiance. I felt a pervasive chill envelop its way insistently, embracing my inner psyche, refusing to slacken its grip. This sensation I discerned with growing alarm was not merely the advent of a cold evening, but rather a deeper, more primal shroud tangibly enveloping my very core. Standing there, dwarfed by the manor's overpowering grandiosity, its ominous presence loomed larger than life, like a monumental silhouette against a half-lighted sky. Its primordial Gothic spires pierced the heavens akin to silent sentinels, ever vigilant, standing eternal watch over the neighboring woods where the trackless shadows threatened unseen. Above, ominous crows spawned a never-ending circle overhead. Their cries, haunting and mournful, echoed endlessly across the growing twilight, a dire warning delivered on wings of ominous omen handed down through the ages. Crossing its threshold, the manor's air seemed to weigh heavily upon my every breath, akin to an ancient shroud saturated with timeless dust and interwoven with the unmistakable residue left by inevitable decay. Every step I took resonated with my presence, mingling with the yawning, cavernous expanse of the grand foyer. Each footfall was eagerly swallowed by imposing emptiness, leaving only an ever-persistent silence creeping in their steady wake. With every protesting creak beneath my cautious steps, I felt the insistent weight of ages not counted as mine. The forlorn sighing of the wind as it slipped ghost-like through aged, cracked windows brought whispers, a tapestry of tales spun by previous generations, those who'd come, tarried, bonded, and passed on, knowing Hawthorne Manor as their home. Amidst the surrounding silence stood a lone, conspicuous note upon an ornate side table. Its intended place appeared chosen with meticulous deliberation, catching my eye with unwavering insistence. Penned expertly by my aunt in a graceful, familiar script, it engaged with the dimming light, commanding my full attention and refusing any chance of ignorance. "My dearest," it began, simultaneously soothing and harrowing. "If by chance you are reading this, understand that I no longer walk the path of the living. Hawthorne Manor, in its multifaceted history and deeply woven enigma, now rests in your capable stewardship. However, such a legacy is far from ordinary. It accompanies conditions, 7 deliberately defined rules to adhere to closely should you choose to dwell within its time-worn yet storied walls. To disregard these rules is not merely foolhardy, it paves the way toward unimaginably dire outcomes stretching beyond the normal purview of comprehension." Here were the solemn instructions she had meticulously detailed, each letter and communicative phrasing bearing the looming weight of fates entwined. "At no time or circumstance should you wander the deep forest bordering this domain once the veil of dusk has fallen. Its vine-woven depths conceal truths best left untouched under the night's protective veiling embrace. Should you perceive your name softly whispered from the abyss of the attic during night's reign, resist violently any compulsion to respond. Replying would only summon that which dwells darkest within the shadows, entities that must under no pretense be invited. An offering must nightly be left in the manor's kitchen without exception, bread and wine. It is a sacred gesture of preservation and appeasement, pivotal for ongoing balance. The library, from midnight until full dawn, remains strictly forbidden and interdicted under every potential circumstance. This prohibition is immutable. Should an open book catch your gaze in any part of the manor, ignore its magnetic disruption and resist closing it. Instead, allow it to linger in its open state, a portal to who knows what worlds. Once the clock tolls midnight, avoid, whenever possible, meeting the gaze imposing from the portraits lining the walls. Their eyes perceive much beyond the ken of mortal comprehension, safeguarding mysteries their likeness will never reveal. If you hear, sense, or feel footsteps harmonizing with your own, resist every urge to turn about. What shadows your steps are best left unacknowledged in both the revealing daylight and cloaking dark. Absorbing her message's daunting contents, an unnamed chill wrapped around my heart, squeezing with an alien yet eerily known grip. Each stipulation resonated like a fevered vision, infusing the shadowed ambience with chilling reality too substantial to disregard. My first night within Hawthorne Manor's venerable walls unfolded into a cautious ballet with these newfound rules directing every step. The boundaries they imposed were numerous and unyielding. I sensed a mutual awareness emerging from within the house as though it were evaluating my essence, weighing to accept or deny yet another intrepid wanderer to its legendary and ancient halls. Outside, shadows stretched and roamed, lengthy fingers spreading through corners of the manor, eager to unveil secrets tightly nestled and guarded throughout untold epochs. On one such evening, as the clock ominously taunted the approach of midnight, I found myself settled somberly in the drawing room. The flickering hearth fire projected agile shadows that swayed, cavorted, and leaped whimsically across the embroidered walls. Then, breaking the suffocating silence. A gentle rustle rudely intruded against the stillness, immediately drawing my attention toward the hallway where the moon's argent light streamed through the window frames. Haunting and intangible motifs unfurled across the polished floor, the moonlight an ethereal artist rendering stories foregone yet persistent. A prickling awareness gathered at the back of my neck, a nerve-driven realization of being observed by unseen entities from shrouded corners, and with it, Rule 6 cascaded rapidly into sharp relief in my scattered mind. I turned my wary eyes deliberately from the penetrating scrutiny of a severe ancestor's painted likeness, his frozen regard eternally set in disdainful judgment, his piercing eyes following every timid motion, every breath trespassing within his domain. Each day stretched languidly forward, each twinned by a sense of unsettling cadence, refusing to recede fully into amnesia's welcoming embrace. I followed the enfolded rules diligently, my observance as precise as the passing time, the only defense against an encroaching apprehension that traveled on clandestine feet. However, as inherent within human curiosity, its sheer dominance was irresistible, a tenacious power demanding exploration, flouting better judgments and vestiges of reason. The attic, especially, enticed with an allure both enticing and daunting, offering a magnetic seduction in a siren's whispered language echoed through aging frameworks. Tugging insistently at my resolve's fringes, one could hardly resist its call. Often, I found myself there, at the staircase foot, pulse a thunderous drumming harbinger filled with mysterious promises and dark premonitions of knowledge forbidden, cloaked within dark attraction. It was a momentous autumn night when my fragile defenses succumbed completely to curiosity's beguiling charm. Persistent, the whispers now weaved my name into haunting melodies of matchless beauty beyond human cognition. Compelled by inexplicable forces that stirred my spirit's core, I ascended cautiously, each wooden stair transformed into somber music composed for potential downfall. Progressively upward, the air grew icier, shadows became denser, the house seemingly a living creature, preparing stealthily to swallow those who dared navigate its profound mysteries. Reaching the attic, its door stood slightly ajar, revealing an enveloping darkness at its threshold. Silence and unshakable unease washed over me, alive with primal energies that filled me with shivers coursing across trembling skin. Despite primal instincts screaming retreat offered survival, I plunged forward into the vast expanse of looming unknown shadows. Contrary to expectation, nowhere were the layers of dust or forgotten clutter typical of an abandoned space often imagined. Instead, the attic disclosed itself as a vast universe draped in a sea of stars sparking their mysteries. Overwhelmed and afloat, I felt adrift, orbiting this boundless galaxy of glimmering orbs. At its cosmic core, an indistinct figure extended a spectral smile, a gesture bearing cryptic promises of unspeakable secrets and unknowable horrors poised to unravel from time's intricate tapestry. In that pivotal moment, the demarcation separating experienced reality from the nightmare's mysterious domain blurred inexorably. The rules, once notes of guidance and soft whisperings, crystallized into binding chains, anchoring me to Hawthorne Manor, unfathomable to conventional reason. The dwelling absorbed my essence irretrievable, much like it had my beloved aunt, and possibly myriad other unfortunate travelers meeting its shadowy embrace over time. In due course, veiled truths surfaced, coaxed slowly, first softly, then forcefully. Alive, Hawthorne Manor emerged as a sentient entity, throbbing with distinct needs and consuming desires, harboring secrets outside the full grasp of time. Every stipulation served as a tether, entwining me further into its deepening shadows, consuming from fear and human fascination, increasing inevitably as time's unrelenting march progressed unabated. Thus, Hawthorne Manor exists simultaneously as my inheritance and my confinement. Dusk falls, shadows grow, joining eerie, lilting lullabies spun by forest depths through hushed tones, while I sit, reflecting before the hearth. The relentless ticking metronome of time's perpetual march, that tireless clock, remains my constant and lonely companion for introspection and constantly evolving reflection. Thus, dear reader, lies my tale, a cautionary narrative of rules unfurled and murmurings threading through time's endless corridors, alluding to ever-present, threatening darkness, poised beyond comprehension's periphery. I ponder, would you follow these ancient strictures, or would the siren call of shadowed exploration, fraught with peril and danger, ultimately triumph, as it did me? Here, within Hawthorne Manor's grip, the illusion of choice seemed never mine to wield, a deep truth acknowledged only after it was too late, offering but sparse guidance, serving as potential warning to those capable of perceiving its whispered echoes. All right, that's the end of today's story. Thank you for joining me on this thrilling journey through the shadows of life and death. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the little bell to get more spine-chilling tales from Whisper of Horror. Remember, every soul has a story, and here, we give them a voice. See you next time. Stay curious, stay cautious, and keep whispering horror. In the remote, shadowed corners of our world, there are places that defy conventional understanding and the rigid structures of logic. These are cryptic locales, perpetually draped in veils of mystery and steeped in layers stacked high with enigma. They possess an intrinsic duality, alluring yet simultaneously instilling deep fear and trepidation in those who are bold, or perhaps foolish enough, to approach their mystifying perimeters. One such place is Hawthorne Manor, a storied bastion of profound strangeness and unfathomable peculiarity that invites and prohibits in the same breath. The manor's very existence calls to mind a riddle that refuses all attempts at unraveling, a living puzzle, eternally locked and self-contained. Each groan of its time-worn wooden floors and every shadow cast along its venerable walls poses yet another question, beckoning for answers that elude comprehension. In an unexpected twist of fate, my aunt, having departed this world with minimal warning, bequeathed to me Hawthorne Manor, a haunting legacy. Her sudden passing was akin to the abrupt arrival of fierce autumn winds that herald change, eerily suggesting secrets carried on the air that weaves its way, thread by thread, through the ancient beams and rafters of the venerable house. Hawthorne Manor transcends the concept of a mere dwelling. It is almost a sentient being, a residence imbued with the life force of countless generations. Its corridors and chambers harbor secrets, harbor histories, maintain peculiarities, and sustain mysteries that augment its inherently intimidating aura. Situated strategically on the very brink of a vast and forbidding forest, the manor assumes the likeness of a consciousness, a thinking being in multiple, profound senses. Echoing whispers carried by the winds that ricochet off invisible corners, shadows dance and play with an inexplicable will independent from the physical relics and remnants of its past inhabitants. As I set foot on its grounds on an ethereal evening, the transition from day to night unfolded before my eyes into a spectacular display. The liminal hours of twilight cast their gentle veil, the sun reluctantly surrendered itself to the awaiting horizon, casting elongated shadows that stretched yearningly toward the encroaching blankets of night. As I drew closer to the manor, the imposing rusted iron gates seemed guardians in their own right. They uttered unspoken warnings wrapped in silent defiance. I felt a pervasive chill envelop its way insistently, embracing my inner psyche, refusing to slacken its grip. This sensation I discerned with growing alarm was not merely the advent of a cold evening, but rather a deeper, more primal shroud tangibly enveloping my very core. Standing there, dwarfed by the manor's overpowering grandiosity, its ominous presence loomed larger than life, like a monumental silhouette against a half-lighted sky. Its primordial Gothic spires pierced the heavens akin to silent sentinels, ever vigilant, standing eternal watch over the neighboring woods where the trackless shadows threatened unseen. Above, ominous crows spawned a never-ending circle overhead. Their cries, haunting and mournful, echoed endlessly across the growing twilight, a dire warning delivered on wings of ominous omen handed down through the ages. Crossing its threshold, the manor's air seemed to weigh heavily upon my every breath, akin to an ancient shroud saturated with timeless dust and interwoven with the unmistakable residue left by inevitable decay. Every step I took resonated with my presence, mingling with the yawning, cavernous expanse of the grand foyer. Each footfall was eagerly swallowed by imposing emptiness, leaving only an ever-persistent silence creeping in their steady wake. With every protesting creak beneath my cautious steps, I felt the insistent weight of ages not counted as mine. The forlorn sighing of the wind as it slipped ghost-like through aged, cracked windows brought whispers, a tapestry of tales spun by previous generations, those who'd come, tarried, bonded, and passed on, knowing Hawthorne Manor as their home. Amidst the surrounding silence stood a lone, conspicuous note upon an ornate side table. Its intended place appeared chosen with meticulous deliberation, catching my eye with unwavering insistence. Penned expertly by my aunt in a graceful, familiar script, it engaged with the dimming light, commanding my full attention and refusing any chance of ignorance. "My dearest," it began, simultaneously soothing and harrowing. "If by chance you are reading this, understand that I no longer walk the path of the living. Hawthorne Manor, in its multifaceted history and deeply woven enigma, now rests in your capable stewardship. However, such a legacy is far from ordinary. It accompanies conditions, 7 deliberately defined rules to adhere to closely should you choose to dwell within its time-worn yet storied walls. To disregard these rules is not merely foolhardy, it paves the way toward unimaginably dire outcomes stretching beyond the normal purview of comprehension." Here were the solemn instructions she had meticulously detailed, each letter and communicative phrasing bearing the looming weight of fates entwined. "At no time or circumstance should you wander the deep forest bordering this domain once the veil of dusk has fallen. Its vine-woven depths conceal truths best left untouched under the night's protective veiling embrace. Should you perceive your name softly whispered from the abyss of the attic during night's reign, resist violently any compulsion to respond. Replying would only summon that which dwells darkest within the shadows, entities that must under no pretense be invited. An offering must nightly be left in the manor's kitchen without exception, bread and wine. It is a sacred gesture of preservation and appeasement, pivotal for ongoing balance. The library, from midnight until full dawn, remains strictly forbidden and interdicted under every potential circumstance. This prohibition is immutable. Should an open book catch your gaze in any part of the manor, ignore its magnetic disruption and resist closing it. Instead, allow it to linger in its open state, a portal to who knows what worlds. Once the clock tolls midnight, avoid, whenever possible, meeting the gaze imposing from the portraits lining the walls. Their eyes perceive much beyond the ken of mortal comprehension, safeguarding mysteries their likeness will never reveal. If you hear, sense, or feel footsteps harmonizing with your own, resist every urge to turn about. What shadows your steps are best left unacknowledged in both the revealing daylight and cloaking dark. Absorbing her message's daunting contents, an unnamed chill wrapped around my heart, squeezing with an alien yet eerily known grip. Each stipulation resonated like a fevered vision, infusing the shadowed ambience with chilling reality too substantial to disregard. My first night within Hawthorne Manor's venerable walls unfolded into a cautious ballet with these newfound rules directing every step. The boundaries they imposed were numerous and unyielding. I sensed a mutual awareness emerging from within the house as though it were evaluating my essence, weighing to accept or deny yet another intrepid wanderer to its legendary and ancient halls. Outside, shadows stretched and roamed, lengthy fingers spreading through corners of the manor, eager to unveil secrets tightly nestled and guarded throughout untold epochs. On one such evening, as the clock ominously taunted the approach of midnight, I found myself settled somberly in the drawing room. The flickering hearth fire projected agile shadows that swayed, cavorted, and leaped whimsically across the embroidered walls. Then, breaking the suffocating silence, a gentle rustle rudely intruded against the stillness, immediately drawing my attention toward the hallway where the moon's argent light streamed through the window frames. Haunting and intangible motifs unfurled across the polished floor, the moonlight an ethereal artist rendering stories foregone yet persistent. A prickling awareness gathered at the back of my neck, a nerve-driven realization of being observed by unseen entities from shrouded corners, and with it, Rule 6 cascaded rapidly into sharp relief in my scattered mind. I turned my wary eyes deliberately from the penetrating scrutiny of a severe ancestor's painted likeness, his frozen regard eternally set in disdainful judgment, his piercing eyes following every timid motion, every breath trespassing within his domain. Each day stretched languidly forward, each twinned by a sense of unsettling cadence, refusing to recede fully into amnesia's welcoming embrace. I followed the enfolded rules diligently, my observance as precise as the passing time, the only defense against an encroaching apprehension that traveled on clandestine feet. However, as inherent within human curiosity, its sheer dominance was irresistible, a tenacious power demanding exploration, flouting better judgments and vestiges of reason. The attic, especially, enticed with an allure both enticing and daunting, offering a magnetic seduction and a siren's whispered language echoed through aging frameworks. Tugging insistently at my resolve's fringes, one could hardly resist its call. Often, I found myself there, at the staircase foot, pulse a thunderous drumming harbinger filled with mysterious promises and dark premonitions of knowledge forbidden, cloaked within dark attraction. It was a momentous autumn night when my fragile defenses succumbed completely to curiosity's beguiling charm. Persistent, the whispers now weaved my name into haunting melodies of matchless beauty beyond human cognition. Compelled by inexplicable forces that stirred my spirit's core, I ascended cautiously, each wooden stair transformed into somber music composed for potential downfall. Progressively upward, the air grew icier, shadows became denser, the house seemingly a living creature, preparing stealthily to swallow those who dared navigate its profound mysteries. Reaching the attic, its door stood slightly ajar, revealing an enveloping darkness at its threshold. Silence and unshakable unease washed over me, alive with primal energies that filled me with shivers coursing across trembling skin. Despite primal instincts screaming retreat offered survival, I plunged forward into the vast expanse of looming unknown shadows. Contrary to expectation, nowhere were the layers of dust or forgotten clutter typical of an abandoned space often imagined. Instead, the attic disclosed itself as a vast universe draped in a sea of stars sparking their mysteries. Overwhelmed and afloat, I felt adrift, orbiting this boundless galaxy of glimmering orbs. At its cosmic core, an indistinct figure extended a spectral smile, a gesture bearing cryptic promises of unspeakable secrets and unknowable horrors poised to unravel from time's intricate tapestry. In that pivotal moment, the demarcation separating experienced reality from the nightmare's mysterious domain blurred inexorably. The rules, once notes of guidance and soft whisperings, crystallized into binding chains, anchoring me to Hawthorne Manor, unfathomable to conventional reason. The dwelling absorbed my essence irretrievable, much like it had my beloved aunt and possibly myriad other unfortunate travelers meeting its shadowy embrace over time. In due course, veiled truths surfaced, coaxed slowly, first softly, then forcefully. Alive, Hawthorne Manor emerged as a sentient entity, throbbing with distinct needs and consuming desires, harboring secrets outside the full grasp of time. Every stipulation served as a tether, entwining me further into its deepening shadows, consuming from fear and human fascination, increasing inevitably as time's unrelenting march progressed unabated. Thus, Hawthorne Manor exists simultaneously as my inheritance and my confinement. Dusk falls, shadows grow, joining eerie, lilting lullabies spun by forest depths through hushed tones, while I sit, reflecting before the hearth. The relentless ticking metronome of time's perpetual march, that tireless clock, remains my constant and lonely companion for introspection and constantly evolving reflection. Thus, dear reader, lies my tale, a cautionary narrative of rules unfurled and murmurings threading through time's endless corridors, alluding to ever-present, threatening darkness, poised beyond comprehension's periphery. I ponder, would you follow these ancient strictures, or would the siren call of shadowed exploration, fraught with peril and danger, ultimately triumph, as it did me? Here, within Hawthorne Manor's grip, the illusion of choice seemed never mine to wield, a deep truth acknowledged only after it was too late, offering but sparse guidance, serving as potential warning to those capable of perceiving its whispered echoes. All right, that's the end of today's story. Thank you for joining me on this thrilling journey through the shadows of life and death. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the little bell to get more spine-chilling tales from Whisper of Horror. Remember, every soul has a story, and here, we give them a voice. See you next time. Stay curious, stay cautious, and keep whispering horror.